Okay, and then we have here the next one, the so-called social bond theory. Okay, so take note of this. Social bond theory, it is proposed by Travis Hershey. Okay, Hershey links the onset. So what does he did here in his theory? So by the way, take note of this also. So it was published in 1969. The book, or his book, is entitled Causes of Delinquency. So that is Travis Hershey. And then dito niya na-present itong social bond theory. So what is all about this? So Hershey links the onset of criminality to the weakening of the ties that bind people to the society. Okay, so take note of this word, weakening of the ties that bind people to the society. So let's try to know more about this. Okay, so sabi niya rin dito, claim that all individuals are potential law violators, and which is true. So lahat tayo, pwede tayong maging isang criminal. Okay? So depende lang sa klase ng crimes ang pwede nating magawa. Okay, pero lahat tayo, we can be potential law violators. But they are kept under control because they are feared that illegal behavior will damage their relationship with the members of society whom he has a strong bonds or ties. So we have here, or we can use the the culture of the Japanese. So meron yung Japanese, sa Japanese culture usually dyan, the reason why they don't, or they are afraid to commit crimes is ayaw nila na madamay yung mga pamilya nila or yung image ng family nila. Kasi in there, basing on the stories that we have heard from them, is that they say na kapag ikaw ay gumawa ng krimen, lahat yan or yung image ng family mo apektado, or kung ano yung nagawa mo, magpipicture yan dun sa pamilya mo, or lahat sila maapektuhan din, mapapahiya. Okay, so with that, those individuals, usually members of those families, they don't commit crimes or they don't try to do illegal things. So katulad din sa schools, di ba? Katulad din sa schools, kung ano yung ginawa ng isang estudyante, magpipicture yan or parang lalabas na naman dyan yung generalization na yung pinakita ng isang estudyante is sasabihin na lahat ng estudyante ng eskwelahan na yun is pare-pareho. Okay, which is not should be, wherein it should not be. Okay, tulad din sa mga academy, mga issues na nangyayari sa mga PNP Academy, PMA Academy, Military Academy. So kung ano yung nangyayari doon, parang sumasama na naman ang tingin nila sa mga sundalo, sumasama ang tingin nila sa mga pulis, sasabihin nila abusive and others, wherein it should not be. Okay, so anyway, ang pinu-point out natin dito is all about social bond theory, na sinasabi nila, with those bond that they have with their families, with their friends, with the society, with the organization na kinabibilangan nila, with that bond, okay, kung merong strong bonds or ties, tendency, they will not commit crimes, or they tried not to do illegal things. That it's because ayaw nilang maapektuhan yung mga pamilya nila, or ayaw nilang mapahiya yung pamilya, yung organization na kinabibilangan nila, or yung mga kaibigan nila. So yan yung mga stand, yan yung stand, or yan yung parang pinupoint out ng social bond theory. So sinabi ni Hershey dito, without these social ties or bonds, and in the absence of sensitivity to an interest in others, a person is free to commit criminal acts. So kung walang social ties or bonds, let's say wala kang magandang relationship with the community na kinabilangan mo, so ikaw ay parang wala lang doon. Okay, hindi ka pinapansin, hindi ka pinapakialaman, or let's say your family, you don't have strong ties with them. Then with that, okay, so sabi nila Hershey dito, you are prone, or you are there are more chances that you could be, or you could commit criminal acts. Okay, so it has something to do with loneliness. Okay, kapag ikaw ay nag-iisa, or ikaw ay walang kapamilya and others, so you are prone to be a criminal person. So according to social band theory. So just take note of this, social ties or social bonds. So without it, a person will commit crimes or can easily commit crimes. Pero kapag yan ay matibay, okay, or loyal ka sa kanila, or gusto mo maganda yung image nila palagi, or maganda yung pakikisama nila, or ayaw mo silang mapahiya, then you ought try to do your best not to commit crimes or not to be involved in different illegal activities. So that is for social band theory. And then aside from that, we have here also the elements of social band. So Hershey presented also these elements. So number one is attachment. So attachment to whom? We have here to your family, friends, and community. So daily, the more na ikaw ay in contact with them daily, then the more na mas strong yung attachment mo sa kanila. So without attachment, I doubt mahirap ma-maintain or mahirap magkaroon ng strong ties kapag wala kang involvement or attachment sa kanila. Pero dito, sa second one, we have here the commitment. Of course, commitment to your family, career, success, and future goals. Then, at least if you have a strong commitment with that, okay, paninindigan mo, aabutin ko talaga tong career or magsasucess ako sa career na to. So if you have a strong commitment, then you can maintain the bond, or you can maintain the that motivation na gagawin mo ang lahat para lang ma-achieve mo yun. Or in your family, if you have commitment to them, strong commitment to them, then you try your best just to protect them and others. And then we have here involvements. Involvement on how? Okay, take note, it is one of the element of social band also. Involved on what? School activities. Okay, that could especially mga team building. So that is to recognize each individual or each member of the school or maybe the class. Okay, sports team, community organizations, religious groups, and social clubs. Okay, so that is also important, involvement of those. And then we have here belief, okay, in honesty, morality, fairness, patriotism, and responsibility. And then lastly, okay, so those are all in all the elements also of social band theory. And then we have here the so-called social reaction theory, or the so-called labeling theory. So what is all about this one? So take note, magkaparehas lang po ito, labeling theory and social reaction theory. Okay, so we have here Edwin Lemert and Frank Tannenbaum. Okay, so they are the two famous personality who studied this also, or who contributed or who developed this theory. So it says here, people become criminals when significant members of society label them as such, and they accept those labels as personal identity. So that's why iniiwasan na natin ngayon to, or sa bansa natin, or sa justice system natin, especially sa correction, iniiwasan na natin yung mga to, yung pang-label sa mga other members ng society. Katulad na lang ng labelan natin ang isang tao ng ex-convict. Ex-convict yan. Okay? So, kung sa inyo hindi nyo naiisip or parang wala lang kapag tinatawag na ganyan yung isang tao. Pero deep inside nung tao, kapag tinawag mong ex-convict, yes, nagkamali siya nung una, pero yun nga, nakalaya siya, and then tatawagin mo or lelebulan nyo siya as ex-convict. Or mga sabihin nyo, walang silbi sa lipunan, mga ganong label. So, matindi ang impact niyan sa loob or sa isipan ng tao. Okay? So, it was proven in this theory that some of those people who were labeled as those, wala silang magawa. Okay? So, sabihin natin ex-convict. So, yun, nilebulan ng community ex-convict. So, hindi na tinatanggap sa trabaho, hindi na pinagbibigyan kung merong mga wishes or merong requests. Okay, hindi pinapansin ng lipunan or nilalayuan ng mga members ng community dahil nga ex-convict, nilibulan nila ng ex-convict. So hindi nila nilalapitan, so walang kaibigan or wala nang kaibigan or wala nang gustong makipagkaibigan sa kanya. So with that, anong mangyari dun sa tao, or what do you think will happen to that person? So usually they will feel frustrated, disappointments, and lahat-lahat na yung na-mention natin kanina, push forces. So with that leads them, panindigan na lang nila, okay, ex-convict pala ako oh, ex-convict naman talaga ako. So that time, parang mas ma-motivate pa sila na gawin na lang or panindigan na lang. Yes, gawin na lang yung mga bagay na to since wala rin naman akong napapala kapag gusto kong magbago. Okay? So, gusto kong magbago pero wala akong mapapala kasi nalibulan na ako or wala na akong pag-asang makahanap ng trabaho or wala na akong pag-asang makakilala ng mga kaibigan. It's because yun nga, nalibulan siya. So, that is being explained here in labeling theory also, and that should be also avoided. Okay, so those are that is avoided, or this theory was recognized or was appreciated also by our law enforcement, correctional institution. Kaya kung mapapansin ninyo, hindi basta-basta tinatawag ang mga nandun sa loob ng kulungan na preso. Natatawagin na preso, natatawagin na inmate, natatawagin na criminal. Okay? No, hindi ganun yung label nila dun sa correction institution natin. So instead, if you will see this, if you are going to have your internship in the future sa mga bilangguan, so they actually don't call those prisoners as prisoners, mga preso or mga criminal, but they instead call them as family. Meron silang tanongan, brother, family, and others. So, medyo awkward or medyo parang corny. Pero actually, yun yung tawag nila doon sa mga kasama nila. Or yung mga jail officers, ang tawag nila doon sa mga preso is brother or mga sa pangalan nila, or if not, family and others. Or technical term para sa kanila is persons deprived of liberty. Okay? PDL. Persons deprived of liberty. So, please take note also of that. So, yun yung technical terminology natin dun sa mga nandun sa kulungan. So, hindi na preso, criminal, bilanggo, or others, but they are called as PDLs, or persons deprived of liberty. Okay? So, that is a simple explanation, or that is a that is being explained here under social reaction theory and labeling theory. Okay, and take note also that this theory is rooted from the symbolic interaction theory. So, ano tong symbolic interaction theory? So, take note, this symbolic interaction theory, it is also propounded by Charles Horton, Colley, and Herbert Blammer. So, what is all about this? So, it says that all people communicate via symbols such as gestures, signs, words, or images that stand for or represent something else. Okay, that's why with this theory, okay, symbolic interaction. So, meron kasi yan, di ba? Kapag merong mga images or simple image, it symbolizes something. Or simple gesture, it symbolizes something. Or paggalaw mo ng kaway, or paggawaan mo ng gestures, papakita mo ng gestures, it has something or it has a meaning. So, it's Edwin Lemert and Frank Tannenbaum, they tried to relate, or this is their basis in why they should, and on their way of developing this so-called labeling theory. Okay, so we have here also the labeling process illustration. So we have here, okay, the labeling process. So number one, usually dyan, a label is attached by police and courts. So, gamitin natin na example yung kanina. Criminal. Nilabelan natin nila as criminal, suspect, and others. So, usually, ganun yung tawag natin sa mga tao or those individuals who committed crimes. So, they are labeled as suspects and criminals. Okay, and then second one, what happened? Label becomes a master status. Override other status as sibling, friend, etc. So, aside from the police, sinimulan ng police, they termed them as suspects, courts. Now, malalaman or maipapublish, or let's say mai-news yan sa social media, or maybe from through any other kinds of media, malalaman ng family, malalaman ng mga kaibigan. So, they will also label him as a criminal or as a suspect. And then the third one, the labeled person accepts the label. So, yun, wala talaga, walang mag-a-accept sa tao na to. So on the second step or in the second process, wala nang tumanggap dito sa tao na to. So yun, tingin na nila sa kanya is criminal na talaga, suspect or others. So ayaw nilang lapitan. So wala nang tumatanggap sa kanya. So with that, the labeled person will accept it now. So accept, yes, I am a criminal. So because how we see ourselves relies on how others see us. So in here also on the labeling theory, it is a belief, or they further explain that we see ourselves, or yes, it's true, it affects us, di ba? Kung paano mo tignan yung sarili mo is it's because, or it is being affected by how does other people look at you. So sinasabi nila wala kang kwenta, wala ka nang ginawa kundi tamad matulog, so wala kang silbing tao. So, sometimes nakikita mo or nasasabi mo sa sarili mo wala talaga akong kwenta, or tinatanggap mo yung label sa'yo. So with that, self-fulfilling prophecy is the fourth one. Whether the label was true or not, we act in accordance with it. Okay, this confirms people belief about the label being true. Or sometimes kapag ito ay hindi mo napigilan, or hindi mo na stop dito sa process na to, then the fourth one, tendency, you will accept it and do it or put it in action. Okay, so this leads to criminality already. So that's why we should break the tie. Okay, so we should stop as much as possible in here. So the police try to stop it here or maybe in here. So wag nang labelan. So nandyan, okay, meron yung proper na tawag. Okay, so at least pa natawagin na suspect kaysa tawagin na criminal. So napakaraming terminologies, kaya meron na rin ngayon. It's because of this theory kaya na iniiwasan na tawaging suspect. Ang sinasabi na lang, person of interest. Okay, person of interest or POI. So yung mga tao na iniimbestigahan nila, hindi nila tinatawag as suspects, but they call them as persons of interest already. So that is because of this so-called, or the belief, or this theory, labeling process or labeling theory. Okay, so take note of those. And then we have here the subculture theory of Albert Cohen. So what is all about this? Okay, so Cohen's basic assumption is that most juvenile criminals are members of delinquent subcultures. Okay, juvenile criminals, especially maybe until now, okay, juvenile criminals are usually members of delinquent subcultures, katulad ng mga gang, katulad ng mga let's say yung mga ano pa ba ang mga tawag nila, mafia and others. Okay, so those are some delinquent subcultures, fraternities, gangs and others. So ano pa ba ang supporting details ni Cohen dito? Okay, so he found out, this is his findings or assumption. Okay, common doon na nai-involve delinquent subcultures or mga grupo-grupo na yan ng mga criminal, mga syndicate. And then we have here, the union of young people into subcultures is the result of adjustment. Okay, take note of this. Result of adjustment, status problems. Okay, which is true. Sometimes hindi maganda yung pakikisama nila sa pamilya nila, or broken family sila. So one way for them to adjust or to solve their problems is is to solve their problems is to join these delinquent subcultures. Okay, members caused by inequality of the existing class society, or maybe at school. So wala siyang napapala sa school, palagi na lang siyang binubuli. So gusto niya maipagtanggol yung sarili niya pero hindi niya kaya. That's why maiisipan nung iba mag-join ng mga gangs or delinquent subcultures para meron silang, because of their feeling na meron silang makakasama na or merong magtatanggol sa kanila. Okay, para hindi na sila mabuli. Ganon yung meron dito sa subculture theory. Okay, and aside from that, enable members to gain prestige and recognition. So wala siyang nakukuha man lang na support sa family. So they believe, okay, the reason why that young person join these subcultures or mga gang na ito, mga grupo-grupo na ito, is because yun, gusto nilang ma-recognize yung mga ginagawa nila, or gusto nilang ma-recognize na meron din, nag-i-exist din sila sa society, or meron silang magandang nagagawa, or para maisip nila, or meron silang power, or may parang superiority, para hindi na sila mabuli-buli. Okay, so that is under subculture theory of Albert Cohen. Another one here is the characteristics of delinquent subcultures. So what are the characteristics of delinquent subcultures? So usually that is non-utilitarian, or in other words, they do their actions, or deviant actions is not for the good of majority, but instead that is for only themselves. Okay, for the good, or ang inisip lang nila dito is good of for the goodness of themselves, or para sa ikabubuti nila. And then we have here usually delinquent subcultures are malicious, or yung mga tinutukoy natin na delinquent subcultures, mga gang to, mga gang, fraternities, and other criminal, or maybe criminal organizations. So malicious in a way, their purpose is to annoy or even injure others, or to rob. There are times also, aside from in order for them to rob other people's, okay, to gain money from other persons, is to injure them. Okay, injure others, not only to annoy but maybe to injure also others. That's why it is delinquent subcultures are considered to be as malicious also. And then we have here another characteristics. Usually delinquent subcultures, they are negativistics. Okay, criminal acts are committed precisely because of their prohibition, in order to consciously reject conventional values. So negativistic, or sometimes meron yung na-encounter nila na problema, they look at it as negative. Kasi meron yung iba na tao na yung mga problema or challenges na na-encounter nila, mga kabataan, yung mga challenges na na-encounter nila, tinitignan nila ito in a positive way. So optimistic sila. So tinitingnan nila in a positive way, kaya kahit papano nagpupursue sila in doing the positive or the right way. Pero dito usually na napupunta, or these members of delinquent subcultures, they are negativistic. So hindi ko kaya, wala akong kakayahan na makapag-graduate kasi tanga ako, bobo ako dyan, mga ganun yung tingin or sinasabi sa sarili nila, while in fact they have the potential. Yun nga lang, negative, or yung mindsetting nila negative. So that's why that is also one characteristic of those part of delinquent subcultures. And another one, they are versatile, or in a sense of various delinquent behaviors that occur. So iba-iba rin yung mga yan, magkakaiba-iba sila, so hindi pare-pareho yung mga yan. And then another one, hedonistic. The focus is more on monetary pleasure or pera. Okay, especially those gangs na mga nagnarab, nagnanakaw ng hold up. And then we have here resistant, okay, to external pressure of conformity and loyal towards their own group members and values and norms. So meron yung mga gangs na merong mga rules or standards. Sinasabi, kapag ikaw ay nahuli, huwag mong sasabihin yung mga pangalan ng mga kasama mo. Okay, kapag yan ay sinabi mo, yan ay magiging dahilan para ikaw ay balikan namin, patayin namin yung mga kapamilya mo and others. So those are some of the beliefs or some of the rules of each members na kailangan nilang sundin, members of those delinquent subcultures. Okay, and then we have here so those are only, okay, the characteristics, but we have here still under the subculture theory. Take note, okay, please take note that subculture theory is only focused on juvenile delinquency. Okay, juvenile delinquency or mga kabataan. Okay, yung ina-explain niya dito. So bakit nagiging part, or bakit nagiging delinquent ang mga kabataan or mga minors, or those individual aging from 18 years old and below. Okay, or below 18 years old. But in here, this theory does not explain also criminal behavior in general, or behavior ng mga adult criminal and others, or criminal behavior in general as well. Okay, so it is only focused on juvenile delinquency. So maybe this is true on juvenile delinquency, subculture theory ni Albert Cohen, but it is not true to all criminal behavior. Okay, so please take note of that. And with that, we have here now the so-called reintegrative shaming theory. Okay, so what is all about reintegrative shaming theory naman? So this is by John Braithwaite. Okay, so what is being believed in here. So take note also, it is popularized in 1989. So it is defined as a form of shaming, okay, imposed as a sanction by criminal justice system, okay, that is thought to strengthen the moral bond between the offender and then the community. So take note that meron tayo yung dalawang klase ng shaming, okay. So actually dalawang klase of reintegrative shaming, or meron tayong tinatawag na meron tayong tinatawag dito na stigmatic shaming, and then we have here the so-called reintegrative, not this one. So we have here the stigmatic, reintegrative, and then the so-called, disintegrative. Okay? So first, let's try to talk about here, kasi meron tayo yung word dito na shaming theory. Kasi nung unang panahon, or nung mga during the older times, ginagamit nila itong shaming na to para i-prevent or para i-deter yung iba na mag-commit ng crime. Anong ginagawa? Pinapahiya or pinapublic display yung tao na nag-commit ng crime. So yun, susulatan ng ako ay drug pusher, ako ay murderer, tapos i-display sa public, para ang purpose nun, ipahiya siya para ma-deter yung iba na wag gayahin yung ginawa niya, kasi ma-deter yung iba na gayahin yung ginawa niya, kasi ganun yung gagawin sa kanya, ipapahiya din siya. Okay? So anyway, itong reintegrative, ito kasi ay itong reintegrative, kaiba naman yung purpose nito. So kung yung isa is to ipahiya, pero ito is iba naman yung purpose niya. So let's try to discuss first dito yung different types of reintegrative process. So nandito yung stigmatic shaming. Okay? Stigmatic shaming or disintegrative shaming ito. So by the word, it is integrative. Okay, so these are the two different types of shaming theory. So this integrative shaming, or in other words, stigmatic shaming. So ano to? So it ruins the tie between the offender and the society, probably for the remainder of the offender's life. Okay? Or in other words, ito ay, ang purpose talaga ay para ipahiya yung individual dun sa other members ng society. So ang mangyayari dyan, ang gusto nilang mangyari dito, ihiwalay, or ang mangyayari dito, maihiwalay yung individual sa community or dun sa other members ng society. Okay? Kasi yun nga, napahiya na siya, ang gagawin na niya, magtatago. Okay? So the crime and criminal are labeled as bad, and the offender is excluded from the society. So maihiwalay na siya. So yan yung purpose ng stigmatic shaming or disintegrative shaming, or ito yung magiging effect ng disintegrative shaming na ito. So it is somewhat, we can say it is not good, or it is bad, kasi nga it is related also with the labeling theory. And then we have here reintegrative shaming. So ito yung reintegrative shaming. So by the word reintegrative, so yung purpose niyan, or yung mangyari dito, ang gustong mangyari is to to bring back the offender into the society. Okay? Brings the offender back into the society as a law-abiding citizen. Okay? So labels the act but not the actor. He has done a bad thing, not he is bad person. Okay? So this is to avoid stigmatization. Nasasabihin na yan ay ex-convict yan, yan ay makasalanan yan. Makasalanan na yan habang buhay. Okay, or yan ay masamang tao siya ngayon, pero masamang tao siya ngayon, magiging masamang tao siya habang buhay. So dito, integrative shaming, it is parang naniniwala sila, or it is a belief that meron yung second chances. Okay, or meron yung pagbabago, or lahat ng tao, or ang mga tao, ang mga kriminal, meron ding merong time na magbabago sila, or merong chances na magbago sila, or pwede silang magbago. That's why this is being observed in our correctional system or justice system also. Okay, so yes, ikukulong natin sila, huhuliin natin sila, pero not for the sake na yan ay pahirapan sila or ipahiya for the public, but the purpose of that is to bring them back to the community. So that's why sa programs ng ating corrections, they are trying to give them, or to help them or introduce them spiritual, okay, mga skills, so that those are the things that can inspire them, or that can help them change their way or perception sa buhay. Okay, so person is made aware of the negative impact of their actions and encourage others to forgive them and accept them back into the society. So take note of these two differences of this integrative shaming and reintegrative shaming. So take note, these are the two types of shaming theory, or the different types of reintegrative process. Okay, so overall, those are the sociological theories that we have here. So kindly please save all of this. Save all of those. Okay, familiarize, and then with that, if you have a question, you can put them on our comment section. And also, please prepare for an evaluation, an assessment about this, about our discussion or about the presentation, and it will be announced on our Google Classroom or maybe in our Messenger group. Okay, so with that, thank you for watching and see you next time.